Welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker, and I hope you can join me as I explore teas, get into Chinese teas, Taiwanese teas, Indian teas, Sri Lankan teas, Japanese teas, Kenyan teas, Hawaiian teas. That covers most of them. I'm trying to think if there's any others. Today we've got a Taiwanese tea, and I hope you can taste along and go through the process, especially if you're wanting to learn more about tea, because really there's just no substitute for tasting the teas for yourself. So I've got out my teaspoon, my kettle, my basic steeping equipment, and because these are more of a Chinese style, I put, you know, with the history of Taiwan as a lot of its tea processing or tea development in relation to or springing from China, I put those two together. I'm putting in enough of this tea. This is actually a JadeBaoZhong, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more. So I put in enough to really cover the bottom of my 4-ounce gaiwan. My water's been brought to a boil. It's been cooling for a minute or so. And I want to add, it's still plenty warm enough that I'm going to add this right on top there. And I've created enough, or I've poured in enough that when I put on my lid, a little bit of water is going to sit above the rim of my lid. That looks good, creating a kind of a seal and preventing any air from getting there and changing the color of the liquor, and just helpful stuff like that. So, set this out of the way. Now, let's talk a little bit about this tea and give it an introduction here. This is from Sky Tea Company, a new-ish tea company in the tea neighborhood, you could say. This is their, let me make sure I get this correct, extraordinarily rare, finest JadeBaoZhong. And they call it extraordinarily rare because this particular source for this particular grower, I think it was, what the Sky's Tea website says, only produced 20-something pounds. But don't quote me. Go to skytea.com and check that out for yourself. 1 ounce is available for $9. This is from the Nantou region of Taiwan, and this is a I talked with or got information from the owner. This is a September 2010 harvest, and yeah, that looks like that's a pretty good introduction of what's available there. So I'm going to talk about this tea, and I'm going to talk about the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. Of course, those are the three main areas when evaluating it, looking at a tea. First off, dry leaf, of course, that's what I'm looking at now. Talking about the aromas that come off. And one of the first things that really hit me about this tea was an aroma that came off as summertime, or yeah, summertime really. Corn husks. You're peeling the corn. You're peeling the husk off of a fresh ear of corn, and there's just that. There's something in that corn husk smell that's coming out here in this leaf. So let's talk about this leaf for just a moment. Baozhongs are not like a lot of your other, many of your other Taiwanese oolongs. In that a lot of those, like Dongding, even the Tieguanins that come out of Taiwan, they're rolled into a ball. This one is more crumpled along the length of the leaf. You're getting lighter colors, less oxidation, less firing taking place on these leaves, so that you are getting you're getting some kind of emerald greens. You're getting some green blues coming out. You're getting leaves that, in their entirety, you should say. So they are an inch in length, and oftentimes even longer. You're actually getting some pairs in this one as well. I mean, multiple leaves together, 2 leaves. And this one, for example, has 2 leaves, looks like a bud there. The bud's actually kind of small. It's not one of the longer, like just yesterday we looked at a Fujian style, a Fujian origin tea that had longer needles. Okay, so setting that aside, I keep I try to keep my oolongs outside or away from oxygen as much as possible. That seems to keep them longer. Of course, I didn't have you're not looking for quite really a whole lot of a sheen or oils getting drawn out with. I don't worry so much about that with the BaoZhong simply because these teas, they're not designed to necessarily keep as long, although some of them can and some of them have been preserved longer. You have to kind of and there's a skill to preserving a tea. Refiring may be necessary from time to time after a few years. So I'm going to pour here. Got one leaf to go through, but that's going to be kind of an artistic presentation value rather than a concern at this point. Get those last few drops to come out. That's nice. Okay. Set that aside so you can kind of watch that leaf float around in there if you like. Get some of the fog off of the sides of the pitcher there. That looks good. Now let's give this a wet leaf a look and a smell. One more time. One of the first things that hit me was there's still a buttery component, and it's a component that I often find with Jinshen varietals. There's something kind of buttery popcorn smell about it. There's warm butter smells coming off of this. That was the dominant here. Other BaoZhongs, I've gotten more of a, I have to go back through my notes, but I remember getting a little bit more of a green sweet pea combined with a little bit of a sweet pea green floral type, flowery type of note there, which is not so much present in this one. Pulling out some of these leaves, you've got some pretty large sized leaves, which is characteristic of a lot of your Taiwanese oolongs. Good sized leaf. Pretty delicate, it's tearing pretty easily. A little bit of reddish here and there along the jagged edge of the leaf. So set that one in there. As I noted, there were some sets. There's actually what did connect a couple of leaves together. Let me pull out a few more. Another one was some reddish blotches, rust type blotches here and there on the leaf, indicating a little bit more oxidation taking place. I'm looking for, this particular steep, I'm not really displaying a lot of leaf sets, pairs. Okay, I fortunately did find a little bit of one connected here, no, actually just a small leaf. Looking for anything that resembled, and I'm not seeing that, so I'm going to kind of leave that alone. Just looking at the stems though, so, another cue that you can take from these leaves or indication is how it was harvested, how it was cut. Sometimes you'll get a little stem that's got a very clean, smooth cut, like it's been cut by machine or by clippers, rather than hand plucked. Let's see here. Another pretty good full-size leaf there. Okay, so that should be enough. I'm going to say at this point it looks, some of these leaves look like they've got a very clean cut, like they've been machine cut. Some of them not so much. So right now it's just kind of inconclusive to me. If I had to pick either or, I would lean a little bit more towards machine cut. Okay. So that's being said and looked at, let's go ahead and move on and talk a little bit about tar liquor. Have a glance here at the color. Nice bright color, good vibrance in that color. The light's actually passing through and putting a nice yellow tint on my hand as I'm holding here. Good clarity. Let's go ahead and still some of the buttery notes coming out in the liquor here. You can look down through, see things pretty clearly as well. Pouring in the glass the same, or the cup I should say. Let's give it a taste. Still some of that I'd say, and I would say this is the dominant portion, is that that kind of buttery aspect. It's thinner, it's lighter, it's not as strong as I thought it would be just from the smell of the leaf. Pretty decent texture, got a nice silky coating about it. With a lot of your more lightly oxidized oolongs, you can get more astringency, so that that hits sooner, so that as the liquor washes over your tongue, it's the replaced feeling. What takes that place is the dry texture on your mouth, on your tongue, sides of your mouth, lower jaw, around there. Aftertaste, it's kind of still kind of centered around that astringent type aspect. You get a little bit of a creamy type, still some kind of creamy type of feel, some kind of texture sitting there on the back of your mouth, especially around your under your jaw here, back of your throat. It's getting more of a little bit more of a sweet pea type of sweetness there. It's there. I'd say it's extended, still lasting quite a bit. Okay, not a lot of bitterness to describe, so I wouldn't say it's a bitter tea. Astringent, yes, I talked about that. Compared to other Baozhongs I've looked at, this one has more bolder characteristics to it. It's got more expressed notes of, like I said, that flavor and aroma. But again, it's not necessarily the fully typical flavors and aromas that can come off of a Baozhong. It's got a little less of that floral. It's got a little more of that kind of buttery component to it. But still good. It still has more. It has more heft to it as well. So if that's something you're looking for, it's got some heft there. So, looking at this tea as a whole, there are aspects about this tea that make go beyond or a little outside of some Baozhong characteristics. Yet, having said that, it does give a little bit. Like I said, it's a little more prominent in its characteristic. It's got a little bit of a heavier texture to it, a little bit heavier of a broth. So if you find most Baozhongs too light or thin or weak for your particular palate at this time, this could be a nice, this could be some a compromise, you could say. So this tea as a whole, I would give an 86, and come back to Walker Tea Review, where you're going to find examples of teas that could be that right, that sweet spot just for you.